I think when you're doing anything that's like so close to another actor, whether it's romantic or action or you're doing dialogue and all of a sudden you're this close and you're like, does my mouth stink? If something like that does get mentioned about myself or even Daniel, which I'm sure that will, I would be cuckoo crazy if I didn't think that it wouldn't happen. As of right now, all that I focus on is, are the kids happy in school because they're all back, and they are. Communicate a lot. I talk to my children a lot, and I drill them with so much information and try and get them to understand. And honesty, I think, is the best policy, because you can't lie to your children.
Hi Sunny, welcome to Pinkvilla. First of all, the trailer of Anamika looks amazing. There's such a badass in the trailer, and I can see that you have put in so much of hard work, whether it's action or whether it is acting. So I want to know, how was the prep for you for this character?
Well, my prep was in the US because that's where I was. We started shooting this still during, I believe it was still the first wave. And we said it's time to go back and start shooting and working again. So a lot of different things were done just in my home, learning, boxing, fighting. I did kickboxing as my form of just getting my punches and kicks correct so that it didn't look so silly when I did it. And a lot of the prep really came from Vikram sir. So it was done on set and then with the fight masters and everybody that was there. So it was a very interesting time. I believe that most people who shot a film or show during COVID time, it was a very different feeling of shooting. So we're all very zeroed in on one project and working on it, and trying to do our best. And Vikram sir is a great teacher. He's a great director. He wrote an amazing story, and even the dialogue. So everything that was created was created by him, and I'm so proud and happy to work with somebody like him.
Yes, absolutely. I remember that at one point of time you said that when you had just started acting, you felt a bit awkward in front of the camera. Do you remember the project or a day or a scene where you kind of had a breakthrough and you were like, hey, I can do this and this comes easy, or like this is actually free flowing?
No, if anything is still easy. I think that you're always learning. There are always times where you feel weird or awkward, or you're trying to push aside your own personal blocks in your head so that you can focus on what you need to do, or maybe you're just having a bad day that day. So there's definitely times, I think, when I do feel still awkward about certain things. But the nice thing about this show is, like I said earlier, Vikram sir is so good at what he does, and he was so amazing in how he cared for Anamika and myself, and showing me things, teaching me things, telling me, from one moment to the next what's going to happen. And I think that line of communication was one of the most amazing things as far as learning goes, and he taught me so much personally and professionally.
Right. So what is that emotion that, if you mentioned that you still feel awkward sometimes, what is that emotion that is the hardest for you to portray on screen, or you kind of cringe? Because Mr. Shah Rukh Khan said that he finds it very awkward to laugh on camera. He finds it very, very awkward. So what is that one emotion for you?
I think when, I'm trying to think what's like awkward. I think when you're doing anything that's like so close to another actor, whether it's romantic or action, or you're doing dialogue and all of a sudden you're this close and you're like, does my mouth stink? Did I eat something bad? Did I have onions at lunch? You know what? I should just make fun of myself right now and say, sorry, I ate a box of, garlic filled something, and this is who I am. So I always think that those moments are always a little awkward.
Right. This is coming as an observation from your audience, like as an audience. Initially, I think you were being offered parts and characters that were more glamour driven, but as time is progressing, I'm glad that filmmakers are also offering you parts which has some meat in it. Do you agree with me? Do you see that change yourself?
Yes, of course. I think that this is one of those projects that I hope changes a few different things for myself. And I'm not talking about money, I'm not talking about shooting different things, I'm talking just on a personal level of being able to shoot a project like this. I think it's something that I'm really proud of. I'm really emotional about this project and really thankful and grateful because I haven't gotten this chance, and on such a big level, someone to believe in me and put all their energy into kind of molding me into a different type of person where, sexuality or sensuality wasn't something that was a primary thing on the plate. And which those roles are completely fine as well, because every role is different and every role is geared in a certain way. So it just was nice to go to work and worry only about, am I going to perform up to the level of what Sir has, invested in me.
Right. You have been a celebrity for quite a few years in India. And I have to ask you this because now you're a mom and you are such a good mom. I've heard stories about you being so hands-on and being so protective about your kids. So I have to ask you this. Being a celebrity, there are many things that would be written about you in the media, right? So how do you plan to protect your kids from that negative? Because as they'll grow up, not only they would read up on that, even like their peers would also read up on you.
I think that communication is probably the best thing. I have to hope and pray that if something like that does get mentioned about myself or even Daniel, which I'm sure that will, I would be cuckoo crazy if I didn't think that it wouldn't happen. But I think that communication is going to be the best tool. Every situation, every scenario is different. How we handle it, we'll have to figure that out as it comes. As of right now, all that I focus on is, are the kids happy in school because they're all back, and they are. And of course, there's growing pains with all these big changes. But I think it's a case-by-case scenario. When one of those scenarios comes up, I will tell you how I handled it. Most of the things that I do with the children is communicate a lot. I talk to my children a lot and I drill them with so much information and try and get them to understand. And honesty, I think, is the best policy, because you can't lie to your children. They're going to find out the truth. So.
And how is Nisha as a big sister? How is she as a Didi? Very protective, or trying to control the little brothers? Ki, hey, I'm the elder sister. You better listen to me. What's it like?
It's definitely a mix of everything. She is a mini mama in the house when I'm not around. If I'm in the other room, the words that she chooses to say start sounding like either something I would say or Daniel says. Or the way, every time that she is with her brother, she does take care of them, which is very nice. And she knows that she's the older sister, and they do need a different type of help than she does, so it's important that she understands that she is the older sister. And when mommy and daddy are not home, we do expect her to take charge and make sure that everybody's behaving.
Right. I have to ask you this. Right now, you are blessed with wealth in every form, right? But there was a time where you did face financial struggle. What is your relationship with money right now, given that you're a businesswoman and that also requires risk taking?
I think that both my husband and I are pretty calculated when it comes to business. We have to believe that there is the long game. There is this thing that we do want to achieve, whatever that business is, whether it's our cosmetic line, whether it's clothing, whether it's production, whether it's, my films or shows, shoots, whatever. So everything's it's more calculated. When we take the risk for a business, there's some things that worked and some things that haven't worked. And in those things that didn't work, we did learn something from it. So I think also as a good business person, you have to know when it's time to say, all right, it didn't work, it's time to say bye. So that also is something that is extremely important when it comes to business.
Right. But because, as you mentioned, that you have struggled financially in the past, I want to ask you, do you feel guilty when you indulge yourself? Because a lot of people I have seen that, who kind of earn through a lot of hard work, and you have seen the hardships, they sometimes feel guilty if they're indulging themselves, or if they're spending money on luxury or something like that. Do you also go through those phases, or you have evolved to get over them?
I always remember where I came from. Of course, I'm in a different position financially than I was a very long time ago. And I think it comes down to just what your own personal values are and what you personally want. For me, owning a designer bag is not something that I need to do, even though it's very, very expensive. I'm also fine with a $10 bag if it's cute. And then I also don't buy leather. So it comes down to your priorities. Do I go on big shopping sprees? I still don't. I leave that to my husband to buy the expensive gifts. I definitely feel, I don't know if it's guilt or if it's just, I just feel odd because I feel like our money could go, somewhere else. We still have conversations about how, no, we don't need this right now. We can wait. Whether it's big purchases or, things that we want to do, and try to be reasonable, because at the end of the day, literally everything can end in 1 second. And I think that coronavirus set that tone for sure for a lot of people. So I think our priorities have also changed from today to 2 years ago, when we were thinking that the world was amazing and nothing could ever happen. Well, things did happen. And yes. I try and teach my kids that we have to be grateful for what we have and thankful, instead of thinking that they should just get everything.
Right. I was talking to somebody who has worked with you, and she said some really nice things about you. And she said, I have never had issues when it comes to payment. I always received my payments from her on time. I never had to call her even once that, I have not received my payment. And the second thing she mentioned is like, I know that, if tomorrow, if I'm not in a good position in life, I can call her up and I can ask for help, whether it's financial or emotional. And that kind of shows that what kind of a person you are in real.
Who is this person?
She was your PR some time ago. Like, she was in your PR team some time ago.
Oh.
And she said that when she was not working with you, so that says a lot. So she was not trying to kind of build your brand. She said this when she was not working with you. So that says a lot about you, for sure. So I want to ask you, because you have mentioned in the past that, when you initially came to this industry, people were intimidated by your image, people were intimidated by your presence, right? But I think the kind of person you are, your integrity, that must have helped them to warm up to you. Do you feel the change in the industry now?
I think if you stick around long enough, that people go, all right, fine, Sunny's here, she's not going anywhere, let's move on. But I still am not as social as a lot of people are out there. It's not because I don't want to be, it's just that it's just never happened. It's not because someone didn't invite or someone didn't, someone wasn't nice. It just happens to be this way that I'm not as social. But I do think when it comes to work and business, that your integrity as a human being and your integrity in your company and what you believe in is, the backbone of how you do business. And if you are someone who is shady, if you're someone who lies, if you're someone who cheats people, if you're someone who doesn't honor your payments, then people are definitely going to see you that way. and there's nothing you can change about it. If there's something that is unreasonable done by someone that is horrible, and they didn't fulfill their side, then of course why would they get a payment if they didn't fulfill their job or their end of bargain? But on my side, whatever I say, whatever Daniel says is golden. You're not going to see us back off or back out of what we say we're going to do. It's pretty cut and clear, whether it's business or personal.
Sunny, my next question is, how is your parenting style different from your own parents? What is similar and what's not similar?
I think my parents were such hardworking people. They're first generation in Canada and in the US, and their struggles were very different than mine. So I wouldn't say that their parenting style was, I don't want to say that it's not up to par than what I'm doing with my children, because what they did with me is they gave me the best life that they could give me, and they were so loving. One of the things that I did that I have adopted that is different is I talk to my children like crazy. And I drill so many different things in their head as far as like how they should be and all these different things. I think with my parents, they were always working so hard, driving us to soccer practice, hockey practice, this, that event, this place, basketball, so many different things they were doing and trying to raise good people. And that I believe they did. And I hope that I can have that similarity instead of that difference of raising good children who are good human beings and nice to people. They didn't have all the means that we have with, that Daniel and I do for our kids. I could say the biggest thing would be school. I was not a straight A student. I was a C student. And no matter what happened, it just always ended up being that way until I went to college and I was on my own. So I do believe if my child comes to me and says that they don't like a certain class, that's my cue to get a tutor, because they don't like it, because they don't understand it, or they're not doing well. So I think that children need help sometimes, and that's something that I would do differently.
Right. Okay, this is the last question for the day, and I have to ask you this because I have changed cities, right? And I realized that if people won't be welcoming, it can really impact your self-worth as well. Like, what's wrong with me? What's happening? Did it happen with you when you came into the industry? Because you have so often spoken about like how people didn't welcome you initially. Did you take it personally, and did that impact your self-worth somewhere down the line?
Absolutely not. I came into this country working. I came before as well on personal trips, but that was different. But as far as when I came here as Sunny Leone to work, God blessed us so much, and we were so busy working that this level of socializing didn't affect us the way that it might affect other people, because we were so busy. Working and working on project after project. People might say that was a wrong route. Some people might say that's the right route. But for me, saying yes, 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 I want to work is what the name of the game was for me at that moment in time. So it didn't affect me. I think it was more later on, after I knew everyone, after I had been working here for such a long time, that I was like, oh, I wasn't invited. I'm still not invited, but that's okay. I'm in a different mind space than I was a while ago. Of course it affects you in some way, but that's also my fault maybe, because like I said earlier, when I first got here, I was all about working. So why would I socialize? But you have to have a healthy balance of all these things. I know. I wouldn't even say that it's my, like someone else's fault or the industry's fault I wasn't invited to a party. It was, let's just say it's my fault because I don't socialize and I was so busy working.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and stay fabulous as you are, and we all love you. Thank you so much, Sunny.
Bye.